This is Joanne Petrie of One to Another podcast. Today we're going to talk about saying goodbye to home. Home can be any place for you. It can be a place where maybe you have lived a short time, or maybe you've lived there a long time. Or maybe it's leaving home because you're going to college. Maybe it's you're leaving home because you're getting married. Maybe you're leaving home because you and your husband have lived in a home for 11 years and he has died, and now you have to do the incredible work of letting go. That's my story. Ron Petrie died in March, and I have been walking through letting go and releasing. I have learned how to say goodbye to a car that he had, say goodbye to a convertible that he had, said goodbye to seeing him ever wear shoes again. It's been one thing after another that I've had to let go of. And the letting go process is just as difficult as it is for anything else in life, but it's an important part of life. And so, sometimes why do we avoid endings? Sometimes we hang on too long when we know we should end something now. Maybe we're so afraid of the unknown that we don't want to say goodbye. Maybe if we say goodbye, we might think we're hurting someone else because they're not ready to do it. We're afraid of letting go and the sadness associated with endings. Sometimes we do not have the skills. We don't possess the skills to execute the ending. We don't know the right words to say. We do not learn from them, so we keep repeating the same mistake over and over. I have found that necessary endings will improve your personal life. And if you learn how to slowly do them in your life, I believe it does equip you to help you move forward and to help you stop repeating the same issue over and over again. Endings are a part of everyday life, and endings are important so that we can move forward. I find sometimes that people are in ruts in their grief because they don't want to move forward, and so we get in these ruts. And a rut is anything new in a mode that is frightful. You stay in those ruts because you don't want to do what you know you need to do to let go, and you don't want to choose a different path, and you don't want to get out of the rut to move forward. But if you are the kind of a person that really wants to move forward, we have to take a look at the person who's an anti-rut. They want to make sure that they're on the right road to letting go. They have a rougher ride than those in ruts because it's important to face your feelings. And the vehicle bounces sometimes fearfully, and we realize that. Obstacles are apt to be thrown in our way. We have to be willing to create a new path and have to go through the pain of forging something new. We want to do something differently, and we feel in our heart that we have to let go. Crying is okay. It's just all right. Your feelings, whatever feelings you have, are okay. And then we have to understand that we have to accept the scar of grief. The scar of grief always stays with us. So here I am in a place where I need to sell our house, which is our home. And so I've been doing a lot of downsizing. I've had garage sales. I've had furniture sales. I've had everything I know to move forward to finally coming to a place when the house is sold to say goodbye. So I put it on the market, and it was about 2 weeks later that somebody came along and wanted to buy it and wanted to be in it soon. So I signed some papers and we started the process, and they had an inspector come and inspect the house, and a few things had to be changed, and then it was ready to sign on the dotted line. Yes, they wanted this house. And so I can remember a few days before they wanted to come and have it their new home that I saw the for sale sign change to sold. And that was a big step for me to see it on the for sale sign in bright red letters, SOLD. And then I found out that they wanted in just a few days. And so I realized that I needed to go to work at doing the final time in my life to let go of the home. And so as I was thinking, because you have to do some thinking, you have to get organized in your mind about how you're going to do this. And then the part that's the challenge is you have to do it. It was on a Wednesday. I knew I needed to go to the house. There was several large pieces of furniture that needed to be sold yet. It had been in the house to keep it staged, so it looked nice. And so a friend of mine had put an ad in the paper, and all the pieces were going to be sold on Wednesday, the same evening that I was going to be there to say my goodbyes. I got there after work, and he was there to make sure that everything was in order for the pieces to be sold. And he was in charge of that. And I said to him, while you're in charge of what you're doing, I'm going to go through each room of the house, and I'm going to think about what it is I need to say and do to let go. And so as the furniture's flying out the front door, I'm very methodically and meditatively working through each room in the house. And I brought a candle, not a real one, but I brought one that I could light. And I could go into each room and I could talk about the room. And I could remember good memories. And then I realized that it was time for me to say goodbye to that room. And so I went through each room, shared my heart in the room with the light, and then I would turn it out. It was interesting when I got to the room that was Ron's TV room. He loved to watch TV, but slowly, as he was in hospice, he began to decline, and so the room was the hospital room. The bed came for him. Many things in the room changed, and as I watched him decline and finally was there the morning that he died. And I just remember for a long time sitting on the hospital bed with him, holding him, and just letting the tears flow. And so I remembered that. And finally, I realized that it was time for me to say goodbye to that memory. And as I turned off the candle, I walked out of that room knowing I would never, ever be back in that room again. Well, all of the furniture finally was out of the house, and I was in the kitchen, and I realized that I needed to do my final goodbye in the kitchen. I'd walked around the whole house, outside and inside, laughed and cried, mostly cried, because there's something, I don't know, there's something in a woman's heart about the nurturing and the caring and the love that she did in the kitchen. And the kitchen was kind of a central place where people would come for an evening or for a weekend, and we'd all end up in the kitchen. And so I thought, well, it's in the kitchen that I need to say my final goodbye, and I need to walk out of the house. But I was prepared, because what I did is I brought a nice cactus planter, and I put it on top of just on top of the kitchen counter. And I also brought, because Ron had a flagpole, and he was very patriotic. And so I brought the last flag that he had bought, and I wanted them to have it. Ron was very patriotic, and so somehow I wanted them to have something of him. And so I left it in the box, and I just put a short note on there saying that he had been in the U.S. Army, he was very patriotic, and I was leaving this flag, and I hoped that they would fly it and say, God bless America. The other piece that I brought in, as I told you, I brought in some cactus, and I had a little planter there. And then, I'm a big note writer, so I wrote a note. I knew their names only because it was on the final documents that I signed. I'm not going to say their name because I need to have some privacy for them, but it went like this. Welcome to your new home. It is a precious place where your heart feels safe to live, to love, to grow, and simply be. This home has been filled with joy, light, hope, and happiness. May it continue as you make this place your own. With love, Joanne Petrie. And then I left a scripture, Psalms 28:7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. My heart leaps for joy with my song as I praise him. And so I left that, and I walked down the hall, and I walked into the garage, and my car was parked in the garage. My two friends, my other friend has showed up now, and she showed up with lemonade, and we're in the garage, and I said, well, I've said all my goodbyes, and all the furniture's gone now, and so it's time for me to say goodbye and drive out of the garage. And my friend said, wait a minute, I've got lemonade, and it was a very hot night, and I want us to all have some lemonade, and we're going to make a toast to the new people who come and live here. And I thought that was very thoughtful of her. And so she poured us some lemonade, and we did a toast to welcome them to their new home. And then I said, it's time for me to drive out of the garage. And as you guys put the garage door down, I know that I need to leave, and I need to say goodbye. And so I got in my car, turned it on, put it in reverse, backed out. And as the garage door closed, my two friends are waving goodbye. I have my car window down, and I'm waving goodbye, drive down the driveway, turn, and leave. And you know what? I still was crying because I knew that there's a part of me that is over, and I needed to let it go. And I knew I would never be back. I knew that this was a time and a place that I had closed a chapter of my life. and that it was over. And I'm thinking about how so many times we always want to look back. And I remember Lot's wife, remember when things were not so good in Sodom? And an angel came and told him, you need to leave and not look back. And you know what? Lot's wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. Well, I'm not going to turn into a pillar of salt. I am going to let go and say, I have said my goodbye to memories, to multitude of living life, letting go of a lot of planting that we had around the house, and letting go and saying goodbye to our home. Sometimes grief is like glitter. It clings to everything. It hides in corners, slips into your socks, appears on your fingertips when you're reaching for a glass of water or brushing your hair before bed. It settles in places no one else can see. It sparkles. Sometimes it doesn't. I think that that's true, not because it makes grief prettier, but because it's stubborn. Grief does not knock politely and leave when you ask. It spills, it stains, it stays. People imagine grief as a clean wound, blood, bandage, better, but really, it's a messy room. You can't fully clean a scent that lingers even after all the windows are open, a sound you keep hearing long after the music stops, and so does the dancing. Some people lose things they love, books, cities, voices, for future plans, and keep walking as if nothing happened. Others crumble at the touch of a sweater sleeve or the sound of a name. There's no proper timeline for learning how to live with what you miss. Some days you do it gracefully, other days you choke on it. That's still living. And maybe that's the kindest thing about grief. It's evidence that something mattered, that someone left fingerprints on your heart so brightly, the light still catches on them. That you lived a moment so fully, it echo still finds its way back into your lungs. So if it hurts, maybe that's okay. If it glitters in the dark and you cry when no one is looking, maybe that's okay too. You are not weak for remembering. You're not broken for carrying pieces of people with you. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it capable of love. And love, after all, in its form, is the reason that we grieve and have grief, after all. What is it that you need to say goodbye and let go of today? Remember, it's something we do little by little and moment by moment. But there is a time when you know it's done. And when it's done, you look forward to a new beginning. I just hope that today you might just take one small step towards one of your endings. You will feel much more healed when you've taken the time to do it right. Whatever's right for you, you know, but just taking the time to do it. I believe that we can't drag into the ruts and stay there, that we need to look at the rut and say, I need out, and take that time. Grief is the price you pay for the ability to love. Love doesn't shut the door on us, but the steps that we take to release pain do move us forward into